Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for June 28th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher, sharing my screen and moderating. And it's a small meeting today. The only other person present is Ralph Kohler. And Ralph brought up this issue. It is in the project browser, contrib module, it's issue 3323354. Review all pop-up messages shown by the Svelte UI installer for user friendliness. And Ralph, I think you said there was just one message that you wanted to look at.
As far as I remember, if you scroll down to comment number 19, that is the comment summarizing the outcome of the usability meeting in June 2023.
Okay.
And the main recommendation previously voiced in 6 to avoid any kind of references to terms like staging area or temporary area still stands. One addition from me as someone working on the wordsmithing and the issue before and review, it was deliberate decision. I've decided keeping the term staging area in C, comment number 8. Paraphrasing what is actually happening, avoiding any of the aforementioned terms became way too wordy, and using staging area was brief and not necessarily specific to composer in my eyes. Group came up with a suggestion for the first two messages how to avoid the term staging area in an acceptable manner. But there is 1 second first. It was comment. We had something like, if you can find it, something like admin or the administrator. It is, yeah, it's message number 3, unable to download the project. It's project, yeah.
As I said, comment 15.
In comment 15 was, yeah, unable to download the project ID module from any available source. Try again in a few minutes in case the error was due to the server downtime. If the problem persists, check your site's composer JSON if all the repositories selected in project browser are entered there as well.
Okay. So
that is, I think that is the main problem. I'm still standing with staging area as okayish because it is not really necessarily composer related, and someone non-technical might have an idea what staging area could imply. So I'm still okay with that. But yeah, comment number 3, I'm completely out of ideas.
You don't mean comment number 3, you mean comment 15 and then
comment, sorry. And
then
message number 3. Yeah.
Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit, because especially the quoted text is kind of small font. Okay. So unable to download the project ID module from any available source. Try again in a few minutes in case the error was due to a server downtime. If the problem persists, check your site's composer.json if all the repositories selected in project browser are entered there as well. So we could certainly shorten that a little bit, but let's think about it through the usual questions. That an error message is supposed to tell you what went wrong and tell you what you can do about it, right?
Yep. And in that case, according to Chris, if basically the waiting in case the server is down doesn't bring any change and solve the problem, then the odds are really, really high. And the last resort is to actually go to the composer JSON file. And that's the only way to fix it, in air quotes. And that way, without and leaving composer.json out, you basically leave the user in the dark how to fix the problem actually.
Okay, so I think the first sentence is okay. Unable to download the project ID module from any available source. So the first thing, try again in a few minutes. And I don't think we need the rest of that sentence. And then if the problem persists, then we have to give some further advice.
Yeah.
Now, this error message doesn't mean there's a conflict in resolving dependencies, does it? It means that Composer just fails to download it.
1 second. Chris explained it somewhere.
That's probably this previous comment.
Yeah. It's more about the repository section. Yeah, that was the point.
Composer repositories. Do, 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 do. So I don't know how helpful this is, but maybe what we should do is have a lot of detail in the log message, like the complete, rather verbose output from Composer in the log message, and then just have the usual check the logs for more information sort of message in the user interface.
I think that might be a good idea, because someone non-technical might struggle with, if you directly write in the error message, check the composer JSON, the person won't have an idea. And at the same time, the person would have struggles going to the log messages and the verbose output, which would be also Chinese for him or her. So, but at least that output could be forwarded in a support forum or on Slack, and that way someone more technical is easier to help the person. So yeah. And do you think, and check the log messages for information, maybe make that a clickable link?
Yes. I don't think we can link to the particular log message. Maybe we can. But certainly we can add a link to admin/reports/
Yeah.
logs. I guess the reason we usually don't do that is that the DB log module isn't necessarily enabled. Sometimes people have to look at syslogs. And I guess Yeah, I guess if the problem is the repositories, we could give a little additional advice. Um,
Chris suggested in 16, unable to download the project module from any available source. This might be a network issue, so you can try again in a few minutes. If the problem persists, check your site's composer JSON and be sure project is, no, okay, no, that is not additional, it's not helpful. I thought he would incorporate the repositories bit. So, unable to download the project module from any available source, try again in a few minutes. If the problem persists, check your log file, or your site's log files or your log files.
so I guess I would cut out this part. This might be a network issue. I would just say try again in a few minutes.
Yep.
I want to, there we go. Keep the capital T.
Yeah. I already made a draft here.
I'm not quite sure what this phrase means. To be sure the project is available to composer.
I suppose that indirectly refers to the repository section. So it's not the usual, I suppose it's not the usual project that is added from Drupal.org, but more of a private one with special setup.
So maybe maybe we can have several short sentences. I gather this is an unusual situation, so
Yeah,
it won't come up very often.
that's definitely the edgiest of the edge cases around those 10. So
let me open
on
up a
Google Doc. Okay.
Google Doc. I'll share this in the Zoom chat. So you can type over each other.
And I request the, oops, could not send. Try again.
Oh, hello, Aaron, you made it.
I'm unable to send a request.
Yep.
Hi, Aaron.
I may or may not have lost track of time. Probably did lose track of time.
Why is this showing up in green?
Is it
Just for
like
the
green? What?
The request is in.
oh,
Yeah, me too.
oh, don't be silly. I'm just going to make it give your title, and then anyone with the link can edit. There we go. Okay, so just for the sake of editing, I'm splitting it up into 3 sentences.
Try again. Yeah, exactly.
Just gonna X that out. Try again in a few minutes. If the problem persists, check your site's composer.json. I don't like that phrase, but I'll leave it in for the sake of comparison. Make sure that project ID is available Oh boy, I'm typing worse than usual today. See the logs for here. So a little longer, I propose removing this and then removing all line breaks so that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 short sentences in a paragraph. What do you think?
One thought, would it make sense to find sentence 3 and 4 and remove check your site's composer? So basically something like, if the problem persists, make sure that project ID is available from at least one repository in your site's composer JSON.
Yeah, that could work. It's getting
Longer.
a little bit long, but I guess the total word count will be lower if we do that.
Because that way it is clearer and more direct and contained within a single sentence that the repository refers to basically the composer JSON.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Apologies, I missed the start, but I'm just wondering who the audience for this message is.
Someone using the project browser. And this is an error message that we expect will not come up very often. So
I wonder if this is one of those ones where I think the challenge is like it's quite possible that somebody who has no idea about like composer.json could see this because like anybody will be able to use project browser in theory. So I'm wondering like if this is one of those cases where we can like link to documentation that can go into more detail than we can provide an error. I think that's
From my understanding, that error message I've told Benji before, that error message doesn't show up in any way with the regular usage of project browser. That's only the case if, for example, someone added another source plugin for a private repository, for example. But if you're using just project browser with D.O, then you won't run into that issue and into that error, from my understanding. So
So it's more of an advanced type use case. Yeah.
But there might be multiple administrators on the site, one of whom is more technical and another of whom is more involved in the day-to-day. Although, I mean, we are talking about site building, right? Adding new modules. So anyway, I was thinking that one user might have set up the site with the custom repository and then handed it off to
okay,
a less technical person to build through the admin UI. I guess one advantage of giving a link to documentation is that as people actually run into this error message and ask for help, it's a simpler process to update the documentation. You don't need a pull request and update the code. You just need to update the documentation page.
Yeah. I know that's what we've recommended before for things that are like maybe automatic updates was an example, for things that are more advanced. It's harder to describe in an error message. We could always go with the classic old, please contact your site administrator.
So if we do that, then it's real short. Instead of this, problem persists. See this document page. Page. Period. It sort of feels like we're giving up, but it's maybe a pretty reasonable approach. Just have to decide which documentation page.
Yeah, we didn't make that necessarily easier, did we?
Let's look at the home page for project browser. Visual documentation. So we could add a troubleshooting page. Yeah, none of these pages are aimed at people using project browser, except maybe this one.
But the docs page would have to be specific for this particular problem.
See one of you combined the previous version into one paragraph.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So we have two proposals here. Shall we pick one of them?
Hmm. For me, if the problem persists in C project browser troubleshooting is sort of unspecific, except the troubleshooting page would be specific for that very problem. And if there are more or different cases by the time on the troubleshooting page, it might be confusing. So either one way might be make an addition to if the problem persists, see project browser troubleshooting. Maybe if the problem persists, see the log files for more information and consult or see project browser troubleshooting afterwards, something like that. So that there's some more context about the problem, that you're able to distinguish what could be found on the troubleshooting page.
So first of all, the troubleshooting page can have several sections, and we could include an anchor in the link so that you actually do go to the right section on the troubleshooting page.
Okay.
I'm not going to save this, but I continue to type very badly today. So secondly, once we have a link to this external documentation page, that page can advise them to look at the logs, have an example of what to look for. And I think it's actually redundant to include check the logs in the error message.
If you're pointed to the correct section, then I agree. Yep.
And then we can add other sections to the troubleshooting page. It's very easy to update it.
Just one question. I remember it should be avoided to use the term Drupal within any interface copy, microcopy. But is it okay to link to Drupal.org? It usually, because then,
yes.
okay, then okay. Was just a bit unsure for a second. Yeah, then. Depending on how easy it is to write up the troubleshooting section, I think I would vote for that proposal of yours then with the C project browser troubleshooting, because it's shorter and less technical.
Okay. So I will leave this Google Doc up for as long as we need. Will you post that comment?
Yeah, but just one other question. If you go to, would you switch back to the issue tab, please?
Yeah.
In comment number 15, that is basically the current state where most of it, we could quickly go through it because the point is, if you take a look at error message number 1, the staging area cannot be unlocked while another module is being added. Try again in a few minutes. And error message number 10. Because if you now look in comment number 20, there Chris explains the difference. The difference between 1 and 10 is what actions causes them. In 1, the user is requesting an unlock of the staging area, but we're saying, no, we can't unlock it while the module is being installed. In 10, the user is requesting to install a module, but we're saying we can't install a module while a module is being installed.
Yeah, I see your point. Sometimes that's referred to as a difference without a distinction, or maybe it's the other way
Yeah.
around. From the user's point of view, I, as a user of the project browser, never think that I am requesting to unlock the staging area. Unless there's a particular button. Oh, and maybe this is what it is. If the staging area is locked, I think there's a link to break the lock.
Mm.
Like you try to install a module, it says, sorry, I'm busy, I'm installing another module, and you try again in a few minutes and you get the same error message. At that point, I think you get an option to.
No. If you take a look in again to comment number 15, error message 1 and 10 don't have unlock. If you take a look at message number, for example, 6, there you have, for example, the use unlock link to unlock the staging area. So for message number 1 and 10, it isn't intended. It's just in the process. It is so it isn't stuck. It's just a race condition and therefore not ready yet.
Okay, so neither 1 nor 10 comes after going through number 6.
I suppose those are totally different cases.
Um, I guess my reading of comment 20 is that in number 1, the user is requesting an unlock of the staging area. I assume that means that they clicked the link in message number 6.
Okay. Oh. One second. I just quickly consolidate the comments and that we can just quickly go through. That is 1. 2. 3 would be the thing we had. 4, 5.
I'm not sure what you're doing at this point.
I just wanted that we see all the error message at once, the current state, that we could just take a final look and
Oh, so I should switch back to this tab, the Google
oh,
Docs.
oh, sorry.
Okay. Google identifies you as anonymous anteater.
Oh, okay.
That's what we call wordsmithing now. And eater. Or I guess it'd be ant eating.
All right. Those comments, those changes are based from the user. Yeah. Back then, we've tried to remove staging area and therefore switched from the staging area cannot be unlocked while another module is being added. Try again in a few minutes to another module is being added. Try again in a few minutes.
Right.
And the second is system ready. You can add a new module again, or project browser ready. Should we go with project browser? Because system sounds odd, to be honest.
Hang on a second. So let me, in a window that you won't be able to see, I'm adding the project browser to my code base. And I'm enabling the module. And then Yes, this is the site I spun up earlier today. I'll give you the link in Zoom chat. So if we go to, which I'm already on the extend page, if I just reload, I should get the browser. So the tab is labeled browse, it's not labeled project browser. Page title is browse projects. I see project browser in this status message. But that's presumably temporary. That's not a long-term part of the user interface. Possibly this second one, I think that's really temporary too. So anyway, my point is project browser is not something that I see in the user interface.
Yep.
So I don't think it should be part of the error message.
Agreed.
So it's sort of the same principle that we don't use Drupal in the
Yep.
user interface.
But still system ready then also still sounds off and unusual.
This is again number 2.
The original string was the staging area has been unlocked. New modules can be added again.
And presumably you'll see message number 2 after you've already seen message number 1. You've seen message number 1, you wait a few minutes, you try again. Or maybe message number 2 pops up on its own without you having to do anything.
Yeah, I think that is also a possibility.
Okay, instead of system ready, maybe we could say something like operation complete or other modules have been added.
How about just simply new modules can be added again?
So that would just be nothing. Instead of saying system ready, just skip to the rest of the sentence.
Or about add process finished, something like that.
I'm sorry, what finished?
The yeah, but add processes doesn't say anything. Yeah. And technically, the original term was the staging area has been unlocked. And talking of the point project browser ready, if you take a look at message number 5, there project browser is used as well.
Was that our recommendation, or
Um,
that
at
still
least
says the staging area?
back then, where we started to trying to remove staging area, I guess we got only to the first 2, because the discussion went long and long and long. And yeah, then we've ended, because back then we came to no real conclusion for message number 3 with the problem of composer JSON, which was even more tricky. And yeah. And yeah, from my perspective, I was still okay-ish with staging area, and therefore I forgot about it. Yeah, but that would have to be adjusted if we are removing staging area from the first 2. Then it would be required for the rest as well. But for me, with that staging area avoided or removed, most of the messages become unspecific, sort of.
Well, yeah, again, the criterion is we have to describe the situation in terms the user will understand and tell them what to do next. So, for example, in number 6, we're giving them this link. So that's the second part, right? Click this
Yeah.
link. That's how to fix the situation. And the challenge is the first part, describing the issue in terms that make sense to the user.
Yeah, but also bridging the gap to the second sentence, also to make sense why you need to unlock something if you, before that, avoid anything related to an area that could be locked. That is also tricky then.
Yeah, so for number 6, I would say something like, another module was being added, but that process stalled. Use this link and try again.
Not necessarily another module. It could be also in the current process, that the current staging area of the process you are in
Okay.
could have been locked, and then the lock. What the lock is expired? Those sentences are really tricky.
Well, there's already number 4, a suggestion to a documentation page. Is that an existing page, or is that? something that needs to be added.
Number 4.
And we are getting close to the end of the hour. We have to wrap this up. So I think we've made some progress. Like we have a firm recommendation for number 3.
Yeah.
And we have to add that documentation page. It might make sense to list more details for most or all of these error messages. And probably the exercise of writing that documentation page will make the job of writing the error messages easier.
Yeah. Maybe let's keep that page open, and I'll comment on the issue. And I say that basically folks, in particular Chris, should comment on the different error messages on the Google Doc. Because on the issue itself, yeah, as you could have seen, I haven't prepared for today. I just remembered that I thought it would be just a single sentence we would need to go through, but yeah, as it turned out, yeah, it's a patchwork across different comments, and that way it's confusing. And having everything on a single page and commenting in there might be beneficial and speed things up.
Okay, sure.
And I think Chris knows the backgrounds, the technical backgrounds of each of those messages best. So he could provide insights there as well.
Okay. And it is the top of the hour, so let's end there.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, and
Thank you.
We'll be back next week, although it will be sort of a holiday in the US, but I guess that I'm the only one affected by that.
Thanks both.
Okay, have a nice weekend, everyone.
Um,
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.